Welcome to the Arkwood Sports Show, where we talk about what goes on in sports. Usually this will come out a bit early, but just for today, I've decided that we're going to push it away. I want to get this video out. Today we're going to be talking about Damian Lillard's legendary game-winning three-pointer and what Paul George had to say about it. The Blue Jays finally calling up Vlad Guerrero Jr. and my predictions for tomorrow's NFL draft. Let's start with Damian Lillard. Don't know. You don't have social media, don't follow ESPN, or don't watch sports, so I don't know why you would be watching this. Damian Lillard hit one of the greatest three-pointers in NBA history. 37 feet away, game winner, buzzer beater, series clincher for Paul George. You know, Dame's known for hitting those shots. Logo Lillard. Game time. He's a bad man sometimes, man. And I think what this does, it kind of erased doubt about what happened last year. He had a horrible series last year, and to respond the way he did was insane. 50 points, 10 three-pointers. Man, it was something else. But something I found interesting was what Paul George said, and if I can find the quote, I'll put it up. But the thing is, Paul George said it was a bad shot. It's basically what he said. And people won't remember it as a bad shot. I'm like, well, what did you expect? Like, if he hits the shot, it's a game-winning series clincher. So no one's going to care that it's a bad shot. If it goes in, they win the game. At the end of the day in sports, it comes down to who wins and who loses. And that's what matters. It doesn't matter if it was a bad shot. If it goes in, it goes in. So you're going to take away almost every Kobe game winner, or every MJ, or every LeBron game winner, where they were taking difficult shots and double teamed and things like that, because it was a bad shot? No. You're discrediting one of the greatest shots in NBA history. And it's funny that he mentions bad shot selection when his point guard is Russell Westbrook. And I'm not trying to throw shade at Russell Westbrook, but how can you be mad at Damian Lillard when he was taking these shots the entire series? You watched those games. You watched him. You probably defended him. Things like that. I'm not going to go too deep. I don't hate Paul George. I just don't think that was the right thing for him to say. And, you know, I watched it over and over again, and every time it still amazes me what Dame did. And, you know, I think maybe we'll talk tomorrow about the Thunder. But I just want to get my initial thoughts out about Paul George and, well, not Paul George, but what Damian Lillard said. So, yeah. Great shot. One of the greatest shots. I was so happy for him. The energy in the arena, everything like that. And this isn't the first time he did it either. Go back. I think it was 2014 when he did it against the Rockets. Man. He is something. And I think people forget, I think Kyrie Irving is a slightly better player. I wouldn't say by much. But people forget that Damian Lillard has more All-NBA selections than Kyrie Irving. And he came into the league 1 year later than Kyrie. And made his first All-Star team 2 years after, I think. A year after. And Damian Lillard would probably have as many, if not more, All-Star appearances if he wasn't snubbed those a few years. And those few years he was snubbed, it wasn't justified why he was snubbed. There was easily someone that could have been taken out, and you can put Damian Lillard in. But, you know, I hope we stop this whole thing about sleeping on Dame and saying, oh, he's always underrated, this and that. Well, every time people say he's underrated, we don't do anything about it. We just keep on saying he's underrated and don't rate him highly. So I hope we finally start rating him highly. Let's move on. Let's talk about Vlad Guerrero Jr. top prospect in the Major League Baseball list that they make. A son of Hall of Fame player Vlad Guerrero. Kid rakes, man. That's all I'm gonna say. Kid has a lot of power. He had like a 430-something foot home run in Pawtucket. I'm mad about that, actually. Not that he hit it. Like, I wish someone told me he was gonna be in town, so I would have gone and watched him play in Pawtucket. It's not that far from where I live, so it's just a few hours of a drive, and I would have been worth it to see him play. Let's also talk about what I think he is for the Blue Jays. I think he's a franchise player for the Blue Jays. I think he is a potential Hall of Famer like his father. I think he's going to be a great third baseman. I think he does need to lose a little weight. He's around 6'1", 250. Slim it down to 220, not 225, 230. Like, get into that Yasiel Puig area weight, per se. But he has a lot of power. I think he's going to be the face of Toronto sports. All due respect to guys like with DeMar DeRozan and Vince Carter and, if Kawhi stays and Kyle Lowry and people like that. But I think he's going to be that face of Toronto sports. I think he's going to be something special. I think even though, guys Fernando Tatis Jr. and Pete Alonso in the NL, so that they aren't affected by him. But I think if he starts playing I think he can play immediately for the rest of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if he was an all-star or he wins. And I think he's still the favorite, in my opinion, to win not offensive. I'm thinking about football. But to win, AL Offensive Rookie of the Year. Not Offensive Rookie, man. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm getting excited for the draft tomorrow. What's the thing of AL Rookie of the Year? We'll say that's what it is. So simple. Why didn't I think of that? But yeah, I just think he's a special kid. I think sky's the limit with him. But it's up to him if he wants to do it. We've seen a lot of talented guys, in any sport that have the talent to be great, but talent isn't everything. Look at Andrew Wiggins. Look at I'm trying to think of a football player who's like that. Jay Cutler, people, I know because of the memes now and everything, and he wasn't a good quarterback by any means, but his talent was so great that, it's frustrating. It's like Andrew Wiggins, the same thing with those two guys, and Jay Cutler was what I'm trying to say is this. What we're experiencing with Andrew Wiggins now, we were probably experiencing with Jay Cutler a few years ago. I think that's funny to me. I just made that connection. I'm a genius, I guess. I never made that connection between Jay Cutler and Andrew Wiggins, but no, it is what it is. Vlad Guerrero Jr., I can't wait to watch him, man. I'm gonna be watching that game on Friday. He finally got called up, and I'm just excited. I'm like a kid in the candy shop, getting to watch all these young studs play. Moving on to the final topic. This is going to be the longest section, easily. We'll talk about the NFL draft tomorrow. NFL draft. I'll look up the top 10 picks. But I'm really excited for the draft, I think. It's going to be it's one of the better defensive drafts. It's not a lot of, there's some offensive plays. I'll do the top 10 order right now, as I just used the great defensive draft thing, in fact, as a way to stall so I can look up the top 10. Arizona picks 1, San Francisco picks 2, New York Jets pick 3, Oakland picks 4, Oakland Raiders, Tampa Bay picks 5, New York Giants pick 6, Jacksonville Jaguars pick 7, Detroit Lions pick 8, Buffalo Bills pick 9. Denver Broncos pick 10. So, the real wild cards in this draft, I believe, are Arizona at 1, Oakland at 4, New York at 6, and Denver at 10. Specifically, because all 4 of those teams I just mentioned, they could pick a quarterback. Some need a quarterback, some don't. But the other ones, it's kind of sad. Like San Francisco, they're going to take one of it's either going to be Bosa, Quinnen Williams, or Josh Allen. Jets, I'm getting a feeling they're going to get Josh Allen or Quinnen Williams. It's Quinnen Williams and Josh Allen if Bosa goes 1 to Arizona. Allen and Williams will go 2, 3. I don't know the order yet if they'll go in. I think Allen will go 2 because he's more of an edge rusher, and Niners don't really need that interior pass rush. They need more of an exterior pass rushing. But Nick Bosa may go to the Niners if we're being real. Because Arizona, they could take Kyler Murray. I personally wouldn't take Kyler Murray, but I understand that when you hire a new head coach, you need to do everything to make sure that head coach succeeds. And I think they believe, and I understand why they believe, that Kyler Murray is the way that Cliff Kingsbury is going to succeed the most. Oakland's another wild card, because if Kyler doesn't go 1, and Nick Bosa goes 1, and then I'd say Josh Allen goes 2, Quinnen Williams goes 3. Oakland's a weird team to me. There's like 8 players I could see them taking. I can see them taking Ed Oliver, the Houston product, who's an athletic freak, interior 3 technique guy, a lot of upside, boomer bust kind of prospect. I can see them going Devin White, in my opinion, the consensus top middle linebacker in the class. I could see them going with maybe this is probably the biggest threats out of them all, and Josh Jacobs, the running back out of Alabama. But I think if they're going to take Josh Jacobs, it's probably going to be either the 24th or the 27th pick, in my opinion at least. But if Kyler doesn't go 1, I think the next team to look at that he would go to would be the Oakland Raiders at 4. And if not Oakland, I could see the New York Giants taking him at 6. The Giants and the Broncos are both interesting to me as well, because they're the 2 teams that most believe will take Dwayne Haskins, quarterback out of Ohio State. 1-year starter, 50 touchdowns in his, I believe, redshirt sophomore year, and broke a bunch of all-conference records and things like that. And, I think the Giants might take him at 6. They're saying they are going to take the best player available. I don't know if that's a smokescreen or it's real. It's Dave Gettleman. He just traded Odell Beckham Jr. It's a mess what's going on there. I don't know. Maybe they'll write it out with Eli Manning. And I think the Broncos could take him at 10. John Elway likes quarterbacks like him. Big, strong guys. Let's also talk about a team that could move up. Reports came out that the Washington Redskins are trying to move, I believe, to the top 10 or 5, somewhere between there, to land one of the quarterbacks. And reports have also come out that they are interested in Dwayne Haskins. So some bold predictions. I'm going to make some bold predictions because bold predictions are always fun to make around draft season. My bold prediction number 1 is that Josh Jacobs will be a top 10 pick. It won't be Arizona. They got David Johnson. It won't be to San Francisco. They just signed Tevin Coleman. It won't be to New York. Actually, it could be to New York, but I think they have way more precedence than a running back. They can pick up a running back later. Maybe Oakland. Oakland, if any team in top 10, I feel most comfortable with thinking they surprise everyone and take Josh Jacobs, the Alabama running back. It's the Raiders at 4th overall. And then maybe Tampa Bay at 5. Maybe the Bills look for a replacement for LaShawn McCoy. It's a bold prediction. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's a bold prediction for a reason. That it's a bold take. Another bold take I'm going to have is the Cardinals are going to take Kyler Murray, 1st overall. And then I believe that either he is traded in an Eli Manning situation where we don't know where he's going to go after, or what's going to happen is they trade the number 1 pick and they trade back for a guy, and with, like, say Washington, maybe Washington moves all the way up to number 1 pick because Washington loves overpaying for things. If you don't know what I mean by that, look up, like, Washington Redskins trades, Washington Redskins signings. They love overpaying. Maybe move up to 1, they take Dwayne Haskins. I think that would be foolish. I think you would have to get you at least a 5th overall pick. Maybe the 4th overall pick. To get him. To leapfrog, of course, the Giants. The Giants may take him because he's a New York kid. They may just be saying smoke screens. But I also think if you don't take Haskins, you take a guy like an Ed Oliver. Or you take a guy like I don't know. It's tough. Well, it depends on who draft we get. You take your defensive player with the 6th pick. And then maybe you grab a guy like a Daniel Jones or a Drew Lock with the 17th pick. You got in the Odell Beckham Jr. trade. Personally, I wouldn't do that. But if you're not going to take... Because I would take Haskins. Like, I wouldn't, do what I just said in taking, Christian Wilkins. No, not Christian Wilkins. Let's say taking like an Ed Oliver and then grabbing a Drew Lock. I think you should take Haskins at 13, at 6. And at 17, you take a defensive player. Because this draft class is deep. I think a guy, personally, like Brian Boone, could fall to 17. There's just so much talent in this defensively in this draft that, guys like Christian Wilkins and, what's his name? The other guy, Cleveland Phil, and, what's his name? Brian Boone, and people like players like that. If you put them in any other draft class, they're top 10 picks easily. But they're going to go in that mid to late first round because of it. Like Josh Jacobs, in my opinion, if he was in last year's draft class, like last year, he would have been a first round pick. He would have been the consensus second best running back behind Saquon Barkley, who in my opinion is the greatest running back prospect of the modern era. And that includes Adrian Peterson. Another story for another time. But Josh Jacobs could go in that range. So let's talk about players who I think fit certain things as well. It's always fun. Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, people talked about that. A team I really like, and I think is a really good fit, is Ed Oliver in Tampa Bay. Do you get Greg? I'll check. I think it's Todd Bowles, I think, is the defensive coordinator now. You get a guy like Todd Bowles. Yeah, Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator now. You get him mentored by one of the best defensive tackles of his generation, Joe McCoy. And Ed Oliver's a player that I believe, had he not gone to Houston and instead signed with a school like well, not Alabama, but like say he went to like a school that's known for producing like defensive players and have better developing coaches and things like that. I think he would be the consensus first overall pick, but there's so much risk with his development and things like that. He may fall a bit. I think Tampa Bay would be a great fit for him. Oddly enough, I have two players that are great fits for the Buccaneers, and the second one being Devin White. Just another LSU linebacker to replace Quan Alexander. They loved him, and I think Greg Williams would be great for him. Another great fit, in my opinion, would be, this would be more in the, I would say this is more of like a second, third round, well, not second, a third, fourth round guy. And the Chargers, sorry for stuttering, guys. This is my first time ever doing this sort of podcast style video. Second would probably be trying to find the team. A team like the Saints. Never mind, the Saints don't have a third or a fourth round pick. Maybe they have a fifth round pick. Maybe if he's there, I don't think he'll be gone by fifth round, but if he's in the fifth round, I think the Saints should really consider taking Tyree Jackson. Raw prospect, great arm, great mobility, but he's extremely raw. Buffalo play. But I think the Chargers will probably pick him up in the third or fourth round to be the understudy of Tyrod Taylor and Phillip Rivers. Another team, I think. Now, before the Frank Clark trade, I actually thought the Chiefs were going to take Josh Jacobs to be their running back. Josh Jacobs, I think he fits well with the Eagles, the Colts, maybe even a team like Oakland. But he's going to be the wild card. There's three wild cards in this draft: Ed Oliver, Josh Jacobs, and Dwayne Haskins. Those are the three first-round wild cards. I feel like they're all going to go in the first round, but I feel it's where they're going to go. And because Haskins, he's just slow. And I don't understand why people think guys like Drew Lock and Daniel Jones are better. I'm not a draft expert, but based off what I've seen, watching all of them, Haskins is the best. And I think behind Kyler Murray. And Josh Jacobs, it's just more of a positional value thing. If he was let's go back to the early 2000s, he's a top 3 pick in my opinion. He's just that good. And Ed Oliver, are people going to be willing to develop him? That's the question. It's a question that needs to be answered for him. But I think he will. He's a great dog, seem like great people. And this is so thank you for watching, guys. Sorry for the mumbling and the stuttering and everything like that. We'll get used to it as we go along and grow, and maybe more people will subscribe, and we'll all grow together and things like that. And you'll see my progression from this first episode to maybe 100 episodes. That's a bold take, but at the same time, it is what it is. Thank you for watching. If you don't follow me on Instagram, my Twitter handle, or Twitter, again, I'm stuttering. Oh my gosh. But let's start. Let me try again. So if you don't know who I am Noah's Arkwood. Yes, it's a play on the Noah's Ark. You can follow my Instagram and Twitter at Arkwood Sports. That's ARKWOODSPORTS. And that's for both Twitter and Instagram. If you want to subscribe, please feel free to subscribe below. And if you want, you can check out my video. I think I'll put it in the description of overlooked athletes in basketball and football. So, if you enjoyed, maybe you'll be back tomorrow for tomorrow's episode. Tomorrow's episode, I'll just be talking more about what goes on. And then on Friday, you'll get my recap of the draft. That'll be in the episode. So, well, have a good night, guys.